Hello, everyone, and welcome to In Time. I apologize for being late. Be- Beyond my control at the moment. We're going to try to get a couple of things sorted here. We are running a little behind. Um, all right, thank you. So, and yeah. By the when I say thank you, usually the person I'm speaking to is watching and knows. What can I do? I apologize. I don't. All right. Let's try to overcome. I'd like to try to overcome one other technical issue, if we can here, and then go. I think. All right. That's good. Thank you for joining us on Overtime. We have some interesting things. Oh, and let me. Oh, you know what? Okay, if that doesn't get. All right, there we are. We'll get it sorted. Really, I swear to God. But just FYI, and I'd like to clear this up. We do have a policy on In Time regarding blame, and we don't have any Canadians handy. However, since we are all sinister porpoise, it's her fault. Scottish Parliament has uh, is voting on an unexplained wealth order to look into Donald Trump's funding of his Scottish resorts. The vote is non-binding, but if it passes, it would put immense pressure on the First Minister Nicholas. Hard to put it in as a Russian one. Nicholas Sturgeon to issue the order. If he did, there would be an investigation into how Trump funded those properties. They have all lost money. Many of those properties do lose money. For Trump, it's about prestige. The golf courses are also that way. But we're getting also a further look into his financial empire, which is um, really, and it's been suspected for a while, but his financial empire is really not even remotely as large or as powerful as he seems to indicate. In fact, is probably just far more debt than anything else. Um, the vote was brought to the floor by the governor of the Scottish Greens, Patrick Harvey, who said, quote, the Scottish government has tried to avoid the question of investigating Donald Trump's wealth for far too long. There are serious concerns about how he financed the cash purchases of his golf courses, but no investigation has ever taken place. Now that the PGA has banned ever holding another tournament at his courses, he now has lost one more source of revenue for the failing courses and has lost the only thing that mattered to him in terms of he was willing to lose money so long as he had the prestige. Doesn't have that anymore. So he may also try to sell them, but he may have difficulty selling them, and even if he declares bankruptcy, until after such an order were completed. So we'll have to see what happens, but this is just one in a long, growing list of people who are looking into his organization. The Trump organization has denied any wrongdoing and denies that outside funding was used. I wasn't aware that the order asked. At any rate, Congress has decided to fast track Biden's $1.9 trillion emergency COVID relief package using budget reconciliation. Budget reconciliation cannot be filibustered. What that means is that it can pass with a simple majority in the Senate as opposed to a two-thirds majority. Whenever somebody calls filibuster, I call filibuster on, I totally call filibuster on you. The filibuster used to be you actually had to stand up and do it, and it was annoying as all hell for everybody involved because you'd be standing up there for 30 hours if somebody really had the endurance reading their favorite recipes from a cookbook, whatever they were doing, and it was a huge waste of time. So Congress, in order to expedite things, said that, hey, the filibuster now, you just call filibuster and you don't actually have to do it. You can just, you call filibuster and it's done. And that means now that any senator who wants to can just call filibuster on any bill. And now it's a two-thirds majority, meaning that essentially any legislation has to pass by a two-thirds majority unless it's really just not controversial, unless it's just boilerplate doing business stuff. So, at any rate, it has passed with a vote of 50 to 49, without a single Republican vote for the resolution. Democrats voted for the first few ones. It's the same old. They're just all of the members of the Pentagon's 31 defense advisory boards have been fired, for lack of a better word. They were ordered to resign. They've all been removed. This after a number of them resigned in protest under the Trump administration. Trump fired a number of them and replaced them all with political appointees, not qualified people, but loyalists who were loyal to him. They have now all been removed. Biden has also removed all 10 Trump appointees from the Federal Services Impasse Panel. Now, some of them are pending. Yeah, that's as Andrew brings up a very good point. Budget reconciliation has to be revenue neutral, and I am very curious to know where the 1 trillion came from. That is a good question. Hopefully it wasn't. We're going to print it, but yeah, that's a very good question. So you'd think I'd have asked that question and done a little bit of a deeper dive myself. Now that I think about it, and we won't point that out. It's Porpoise's fault. Let's see. So yeah, that's just numerous things. Mike Lindell, who we've discussed at length before, he's the CEO of MyPillow and is, I think, kind of just a creepy fuck. But at any rate, and we try to be reasonably impartial, but when you head to the White House with papers that are advocating for sedition, the gloves get to come off. He has done an interview on Newsmax to discuss the problem of cancel culture. Let's take a look now and see that interview.
So what happened? What happened with your Twitter account and the company page?
Well, first mine was taken down because we have all the election fraud with these Dominion machines. We have 100% proof. And then when they took it down about 3 weeks ago, and then when I put it back up, my personal, it was a
Mike, thank you very much. Mike, you're talking about machines that we at Newsmax have not been able to verify any of those kinds of allegations. We just want to let people know that there's nothing substantive that we've seen. And let me read you something there. While there were some clear evidence of some cases of vote fraud and election irregularities, the election results in every state were certified, and Newsmax accepts the results as legal and final. The courts have also supported that view. So we wanted to talk to you about canceling culture, if you will. We don't want to relitigate the allegations that you're making, Mike, because we understand where you are. So let me ask you this. Do you think that this should be temporary? Because it appears to be permanent. Could you make an argument that it is temporary?
What?
Could you make an argument that this could be a temporary banning rather than permanent?
No, I want it to be a permanent because you know what? They did this because I'm revealing all the evidence on Friday of all the election fraud with these machines. So I'm sorry if you think it's not
Mike,
real.
Can I ask our producers, can we get out of here, please? I don't want to have to keep going over this.
Actually,
we at Newsmax have not been able to verify any of those allegations that you're
Mike, hold on a second. Everybody hold on a second. Mike, hold on 1 second. Let's talk a little bit about just what is happening overall in terms of censorship of...
Trying to cancel out my company and myself. Okay. In this country, it's cancel culture.
That was ostensibly an interview on cancel culture. I will say this. The man doing the interview, Mike, had an answer he was reading. And I find that interesting because at a minimum, they knew this was a distinct possibility that he was really going to just go completely off the rails. And they were prepared for it. Obviously, with the number of companies, Fox is now being sued by the company that made the voting machines. It is I think it was a $1 point something billion lawsuit against Fox. for repeating the claims that the machines were fake. It's always difficult to opine on these things, especially this early on. Doesn't stop me from doing it on more than one occasion. But having said that, I'm going to make this one of those occasions. It sounds to me like, especially the way the tide is turning against everybody who was involved in this, and Fox was up to their ears in it. So my suspicion is that there's going to be some punitive damages, and my hope is that they go after Fox. Speaking of, I want everybody to we all know Vox, not Fox, but that's what got me thinking of it. And Vox was supposed to be here tonight. We were having issues with her connecting. So if everybody listening could do a little favor for me and maybe give her a shout out and tell her how much you appreciate having her on. I appreciate having her on. I appreciate that she comes and does the show. And I think she really wanted to come in tonight. She's had to miss a few. And it was a connection problem. And, but I think she's feeling so. If everybody could on the Discord, in fact, if you have your Discord open and you want to just hit her up and, just check in and see how she's doing and let her know how much you appreciate her. I appreciate her. And hopefully maybe she'll also be on the after show in the Discord. But so I'll remind everyone else of that later. So that's why we were late. We were having some connection issues, and I think she really wanted to be on, and we haven't had her on in a little while. So let her know. At any rate, moving forward, I'm gonna spent a good deal of time trying to get that done. So I'm a little disheveled here. All right, so that is Mike Lindell. Frankly, I'm half tempted to just not do the credits and just do that one more time. We may do that one more time. Georgia attorney Lynn Wood was one of the controversial figures who had been involved in Georgia regarding the claims of fraud. He filed multiple lawsuits attempting to get a number of votes thrown out, claiming that the election was stolen because of people who had voted illegally in Georgia's 2020 election. Quote, "It's 1776 in America, and we're not going to let them take our freedom." We have a new dog whistle word. At any rate, the Georgia Secretary of State has now confirmed that they are opening an investigation into Mr. Wood as to whether or not he voted legally. You can't make this shit up. So it turns out an email has surfaced in which he it had been known that he purchased property in South Carolina. An email surfaced in which he said, quote, "I have been domiciled in South Carolina for several months after purchasing my property in the state in April. This would violate the Georgia's civil code on elections, which reads, quote, if a person moves to another state with the intention of making it that such person's residence, that person shall be considered to have lost person's residence in this state." Wood responded to the news that the Attorney General had opened an investigation into whether or not he had committed voter fraud by saying, quote, "I've been a resident of the state of Georgia since 1955. I changed my residency to South Carolina yesterday." He needs to read that law just a touch closer. Wood also said that he didn't vote in the January runoff in Georgia. Indeed, a new survey has found that less than half of the people who participated in the Capitol Hill riots, and in the, I'm referring to the rioting part, which also includes the insurrectionists, but includes a larger net. But of all the people who were there that day, less than half voted in the 2020 election. Congress voted today to strip Taylor Greene of her committee assignments. Greene is the congresswoman we've discussed before. Before she was elected to Congress in 2018, she called for the execution of liberals and Democrats. She also believes that the California fires were caused by Jewish space lasers. I guess she was upset because she felt that the Jews were cutting in on the Nazi space laser action, and so she's concerned. And that the Parkland school shooting was a false flag incident. And other QAnon conspiracy theories. She has had recently a large number of very successful fundraisers, and she's been fundraising like crazy. But nonetheless, the committee voted today to strip her of her committee assignments. Yesterday, the two largest teachers' unions in the country demanded that she be removed from the Committee on Education, and she was also stripped today of that one and the Budget Committee. So there are still moves at this point. This was within, I think, they had given Republicans, I think, 72 hours to act. They didn't, so the entire House has now voted on it and pulled her. It was entirely along party lines, with the exception of, I think, 10 Republicans. So I shouldn't have said entirely. It was 10 Republicans, including ones in the vicinity of the Parkland shooting areas. Okay. This is I really don't know how to answer this. Really, really, really. I mean, really. What we're going to have to get, space lasers now have to be to every, so Jehovah's Witnesses get a space laser, Scientologists get a space laser. Do we also have to, like, Shias and Sunnis? I mean, is it not just Islam, but every, let's get the Methodists a space laser? Porpoise, could you please stop saying just such silly things? I mean, really? Let's just, no. I think Aryans get a space laser, and apparently the Jews, because, they're smart, I guess. Whatever the thinking is going to be. They've got their space lasers. At any rate, let's see, where was I? So she's been stripped of her committee assignments. She is still fundraising. It looks like they're going to make a serious attempt at getting her ejected from Congress. They also, the Senate today asked Trump to testify at the impeachment, and he has declined, which he had actually already said he's pre-declined. He had actually already pre-declined. This is we need Oprah handing out space lasers, because that's what we need. And I think that's about it. I feel like I'm missing something. I've been a little scatterbrained. I'm just going to quickly check and see if I've okay, I'm going to listen to something really quickly, and then so, yes, the man saying that every religion needs a space laser is asking you to stop saying silly things. This is my show. I get to be as silly as I want. When you show me up, hold on one second. So I'm going to quickly send a DM, and I got a question here, and I want to get it answered before we wrap up the show. If you guys have any questions, we are going to be doing, I think this Monday, we've got our, we put it back a week. We've got our Patreon meeting coming up, and then I'm going to be able to be in the Discord, I think, briefly after this. Hopefully Vox will be after this, but I'm going to try to also, once again, spend a little time with the family. But I'm going to mute for just 1 second and send a DM. I'll check the live chat and see if anybody's said anything that we should catch up on. So I'll be back in a sec. All right, there we go. All right, so let me get caught up with everything. I just tightened. I sent you a DM there real quick, and I'm going to check with the live chat. Oh Jesus, yes, there was the. Thank you, Porpoise. I can't believe I forgot that. The CDC has the head of the CDC has recommended opening schools without vaccinating the teachers, which strikes me as rather shocking. I'd like to try to give the benefit of the doubt and say that they're thinking something that um, uh, uh, I honestly I have no idea what they're thinking. Okay, now this is from the Hill. Um, all right, so this is the Nebraska senator. He's a Republican. What I think I'm going to do is just mildly concerned because it's on the Hill. It's probably last time we did this, we got a strike, so we'll try to be a little careful with it. Let me. All right, I'm gonna see if I can get some audio here or some video. This is a a Republican senator on Donald Trump, and I will confess I haven't actually even seen this yet, but I've been told it's good, so I figure we're live, and I could probably just streamline it in, but it's going to take me 1 second. Actually, I closed all the windows I would need to do that because I said I'm not going to do anything fancy today. So yeah, let's see. And it's not going to be there, of course, because that would have been too. All right. Yeah, it just doesn't want me to capture it. All right, we've got it. And so now I just got to there we go. So I will put another video. I'll have that up in a minute. We'll put it in the center there, and once again I'll get the live chat. That not. I apologize. There we go. Up. And so we will. So let's see. We have okay. This is we're going to replace this with this, and we should be. So let me do one more quick check on the live chat. Make sure nobody's got any really urgent messages for me before we give this a shot here. There you go. So yeah, the CDC. I really want if they. I have spoken to a lot of people about teaching, and they say, well, teachers get the summers off, and when you take a look at what they get paid. I started teaching at Westboro High School in Massachusetts. I was a computer science teacher, and then I coached the mock trial team. And I was working part time, and my starting salary was $60,000, which is a lot for a starting salary, and at part time. But here's the thing. I didn't get summers off because the school doesn't write the curriculum, you do. and you have to follow the guidelines. But the guidelines are, okay, this is what they need to learn. You have to research and find the material. You have to go out and figure out how you have to write the quizzes, you have to do the tests, you have to do the whole 9 yards. And if there are other teachers teaching your subject, you have to do it in some sort of semblance of working with them. You have to get professional development hours in. You have to maintain your license. You have to do all sorts of your own extracurricular activities. And then if you're going to stay after school to help students and so on and so forth, I calculated what I had made by the end of my first year. And it came out to be about $12 an hour. $12 an hour when you took getting in early, leaving well past anybody else. When you took into account, the other thing I remember, and I'm going to make this a brief rant and then I will move on, but I remember we had been told that we had to have 3 assessments for each student per grading period. What is a grading period? You might think it's a quarter. It's not, because they're in between each quarters. They have the, I forget what they call them, but there's a separate. So it's actually for every 8, you divide the year up into 8 grading periods. You have to have 3 assessments for each student at a minimum. You want to do the minimum for each student. So 3 times 8, that's 24 separate assessments for each student, minimum, that your school expects of you. If you have 100 students, do the math. So when are you going to grade these things? You know, when are you going to, because that's not considered part of your teaching time. That's not part of the time. You know, that's something you're going to have to do on your own. So what ended up happening for me was, the starting salary was great, but by the time I had to include the summer because I had to write curriculum. By the time I was said and done, as a teacher, I was earning about $12 an hour. I don't think teachers in this country should be earning $12 an hour. I don't care what the yearly salary is. I want to know how much they're making an hour, and it should be a lot more than 12. Now, if we have this myth in this country that you should do it because you love it. I agree you should love it, and I hope you love it. But I want good teachers. And frankly, if the best teacher quits because they could make more money as an assistant principal, which I've seen happen, all the teachers are leaving because they have to feed their families, because they have to. And I'd rather have somebody who really didn't care about it, but was good, was undeniably good, than somebody who loved teaching, wanted to be the best teacher in the world, and sucked at it. We need good teachers, period. There's one way to do that. You pay them, and you pay them well. And $12 an hour isn't well. There's a reason the burnout rate is so high for teachers, and you end up with only half of teachers are basically the age of retirement. Why? Now, in a population that is already older than average, you're going to expose them to COVID. And the thinking is, and I shit you not, this is the thinking. The thinking is, well, they're teachers, they should take one for the team. They should be patriotic. Isn't teaching a noble profession. These are noble people who should understand that we have to educate our kids. I agree we have to educate our kids. It would be nice if the parents figured that out. When the parents figure that out, then they can lecture the teachers on the fact that we need to educate kids. But no. So this is stunning, and I'm willing to have an open mind. I would like to think that the most staunch conservative, when they were first told that COVID was a serious problem and you have to wear masks and you have to do all these other things, even if they care about freedom, they would sit and think about it and be willing to at least hear the other side. So I'm willing to hear what they have to say about this, but I have a very hard time seeing how they're going to get to the bridge of what I understand about COVID, what I understand about teachers, and then saying that we're going to open the schools. And as a parent aside, yeah, I'm a little concerned about the parents too. But at any rate, that's well, so I think it was Norway. If I recall, it was Norway. It was one of the Scandinavian countries. I think it was Norway. Did all the same social distancing as all of the other Scandinavian countries, but they opened the schools. Other than that, everything else was identical. This was spectacular because and a lot of people ended up misrepresenting it because they said, well, compare Norway to Germany. Germany, or not, I'm sorry, no, compare Norway to any country that had completely open schools, and you would see Norway was a huge success. I mean, Norway was a staggering success. They had the schools open, but they were able to dramatically reduce transmission of the virus. Why? One, they strictly enforced everything all the time. Even though the schools were open, they had mask mandates, social distancing. They also had a healthcare system where if you started to get sick, you didn't have to go to work for fear that you were going to lose your job. You could still, if you were teetering on the edge, the government still took care of you. People still took care of you. So you weren't going to be out of work. You weren't going to lose your pay. You weren't going to, and you could take the time off and then, oh, it's COVID. Okay, fine. Now you're going to be taken care of instead of you having gone back to work because you're so worried about that paycheck. But, well, Norway still did a spectacular job compared to most countries. They really did. They did compared to most countries. They failed compared to all the other Scandinavian countries. And people would sit there and say, well, this is proof that you can open the schools and everything will be fine. No, because Norway still had 50% higher rates when the data that I'm talking about was collected. I don't know what it is in Norway right now, but when this study was done, Norway had 50% higher rates than the other Scandinavian countries. Why? Because they opened the fucking schools. That's why. It wasn't safe. And the only reason it wasn't a complete catastrophe is because they have other programs in place that we in the United States do not have and won't because it's called socialism and it's evil. And I know that because I'm an American and I'm always right. So the evidence that I've seen, especially in Norway, suggests that opening the schools is a very poor idea. Now, the children did have in Norway, and this is what led to the assumption that kids are not as easily transmissible of this, which is the numbers for the students were actually significantly lower than that for the general population. The numbers are changing, and so we don't know how or why that is. The new variant of COVID appears to affect children at least as badly as adults. So, but at the time, the thinking was that, okay, children really don't get it. That's fine. They still bring it home to the parents. They still, the teachers are still exposed. So this is, yeah. I honestly don't know what's going to happen. I'd like to see, this is the new director of the CDC. Oh, wait a minute. No, Fauci was the head of, he wasn't the head of the CDC. He was the head of, Jesus, yes, he was. I'm sorry. I'm my brain's mush. This is whoever this is. The CDC's been out of the game for a little while, by the way. It would be nice to see if they start actually really, yeah, that Mr. Frost, I think, has, yes. Well, Mr. Frost, I will counter by, is there any other kind of America? And to anyone who's going to take that out of context, yeah, that was dripping with contempt. At any rate, so let's see. I want to understand why she's saying that. I don't have any clue yet. We're going to talk to some scientists. We're going to try to unpack that because that's worth. If she sticks with that, that's worth a show. That's worth a show. That's worth figuring out exactly what she means by that and why. Because nothing that I've seen can justify what the head of the CDC said, And if this were under the Trump administration, we would call that Tuesday. But under the Biden administration, we're expecting some level of competency, so something's wrong. It's either my understanding or wrong ladies leading the CDC. So, well, Biden's got his work cut out from the CDC. Hasn't gotten up to speed yet. I mean, the CDC's been literally out of this ballgame. I mean, Johns Hopkins has been collecting all the data because Trump pulled the cable pulled the cord on the CDC, and they've been able to study it, but they can't. They have to get their data from Johns Hopkins when they're trying to study it. Really? Dear Lord, that man can't be put in prison enough times. Yeah. All right, so I queued this up, so I'd actually forgotten that I had this queued, so this will give me a good opportunity to get to some chats, and then we'll wrap things up. So let's play this. This was on the Hill. This was a senator. Let's just make sure that it's actually, I also, I could switch to be in full screen mode, but I don't think that's going to really help. Oh, yes, I understand the problem now. All right, and here we go.
Guys, I want to talk to the State Central Committee. I've heard from many of you in the days since the attack on the Capitol, threatening another censure for what I said about the president's lies after the election. As a friend and fellow Republican, I want to shoot straight. I'm not going to spend any time trying to talk you out of another censure. I listen to Nebraskans every day, and very few of them are as angry about life as some of the people on this committee. Not all of you, but a lot. Political addicts don't represent most Nebraska conservatives. When Melissa and I first ran back in 2014, we spoke with hundreds of thousands across this gorgeous state, and we promised to speak out when our leaders, not just Democrats, but any leader in either party, crossed the line. We pledged to put the Constitution ahead of party politics. You gave me standing ovations. My election night speech, the first time I ever ran for or got elected to anything, was a simple promise that I would always vote my conscience, even if it might be against the partisan stream. You cheered. But many of the same party officials who applauded in 2014 cussed me out in 2016 when I refused to vote for candidate Trump. And again, when I declined to serve on his re-election committee in 2019, and again, when I didn't vote for him in 2020. Now, many of you are hacked off that I condemned his lies that led to a riot. Let's be clear. The anger in the state party has never been about me violating principle or abandoning conservative policy. I'm one of the most conservative voters in the Senate. The anger has always been simply about me not bending the knee to one guy. But my disagreements with President Trump have never been personal. They've always been about genuine affection for the constitutional order, something every American, regardless of party, should share. January 6th is going to leave a scar. For 220 years, one of the most beautiful things about America has been our peaceful transfer of power. But what Americans saw 3 weeks ago was ugly. Shameful mob violence to disrupt a constitutionally mandated meeting of the Congress to affirm that peaceful transfer of power. It happened because the president lied to you. He lied about the election results for 60 days, despite losing 60 straight court challenges, many of them handed down by wonderful Trump-appointed judges. He lied by saying that the vice president could just violate his constitutional oath and declare a new winner. That wasn't true. He then riled a mob that attacked the Capitol, many chanting, "Hang Pence." If that president were a Democrat, we both know how you'd respond. But because he had Republican behind his name, you're defending him. Something has definitely changed over the last 4 years, but it's not me. Personality cults aren't conservative. Conspiracy theories aren't conservative. Lying that an election has been stolen, it's not conservative. Acting like politics is a religion, it isn't conservative. I still believe every word from the campaign trail What makes America great isn't power politics. It's what happens in the communities where you and I are raising our kids. Happily, most Nebraskans still believe that too. I think that's why Nebraskans just gave our campaign tens of thousands more votes than President Trump got in our state. It's why our campaign just set all-time vote count records in both the primary and general elections, despite being primaried last year for not being Trumpy. All-time most votes for any candidate in Nebraska history. And look at Omaha, which he lost by a lot, and we won handily. Why? I think the reason's simple. Nebraskans aren't rage addicts, and that's good news. You are welcome to censure me again, but let's be clear about why this is happening. It's because I still believe, as you used to, that politics isn't about the weird worship of one dude. The party could purge Trump skeptics, but I'd like to convince you that not only is that civic cancer for the nation, it's just terrible for our party. But either way, I'm going to keep doing what I promised. We still agree on some big things: rule of law, constitutionalism, limited government, unlimited human potential, extending the American dream to more of our brothers and sisters. We can lead again, but only if our party is willing to change. We're going to have to choose between conservatism and madness, between just trolling versus actually persuading the rising generation of Americans again. That's what I'm focused on. And I sincerely hope that many of you will join in celebrating these big, worthy causes for freedom. Look, I know I won't always get it right. I make a bunch of mistakes, but I'm always going to work hard for Nebraskans, and I'm always going to tell you the truth. Thanks for listening.
Hey.
I've heard from many of you in the days since the attack on the Capitol, threatening another censure for what I said about the president's lies after the election.
All right. So I apologize. I was muted. I should have realized I still have the touch of muting myself. So thank you all for the multiple signals on Discord. What I was saying was we have Richard Carrier on coming up. I don't think that's next week. I think that's actually the week after. But we have Dr. Richard Carrier coming up to do the Bayesian analysis with us, which is I've always wanted to understand that more. I hear a lot about it. I want to understand it, so I'm looking forward to that. We have our patron meeting on, I think it's at 3 on Monday. More information about that will be on our Discord. Come on in and hang out on our Discord. I want to be there in a little bit. I can't stay too long today. Hopefully Vox will be there, but we'll look forward to seeing you. And if you haven't become a patron yet and you'd like to, it's still time to do so by the meeting. And otherwise, I think now we're good to go. Thank you all for your patience, and look forward to seeing you soon.